Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Victory Drive Podcast. I am your host, Jacob Johnson, and we are going to be talking about 35 caliber cartridges this week. I'm very excited about this. As many of you know, I have been a very big proponent on the 35 caliber ever since Iowa legalized bottleneck cartridges and just went to like a caliber restriction. It really got me looking into obviously the 35 Whelen. I've talked about that quite a bit in other episodes. So this week we're just going to be talking just all about, I guess what I believe are probably the most important 35s. Might differ, but it seems like the 35s don't really get a lot of respect, and I think they deserve it. I think they've done enough to deserve a little bit more respect than people tend to give them. And I get it. I get why people are talking kind of left 35s by the wayside. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you live in a state that is not caliber restricted and you can just kind of do whatever you want, shooting 243, 300 Win Mag, or anything in between. I totally understand why nobody would really pick up 35s and not really give them a chance, because when you're living in a state like, South Carolina, Tennessee, or southern states like that, or out west, you're growing up and you're just kind of like, what kind of rifle do I get? And you kind of probably start out with a 243 as a kid, because they're light recoiling and they, are fast and very minimal drop, and it's easy for kids to get going on 243, and it's plenty of bullet to take down a deer. So a lot of people start with deer and then they move on from there. So I totally understand why people wouldn't pick up a 35 caliber, whether it be any of the ones that we're about to talk to or some of the more obscure 35s. But once upon a time, the 35s were very important, especially out in the deep woods. So we're going to talk all about them, and especially for people that live in states that are caliber restricted, like Iowa. We're just going to throw it out there. A little food for thought, for everybody to think about before summer's over and they decide maybe I want to try a 35. Maybe I want to try one. See what it's all about, Anyways, we're going to talk all about it coming in this episode here pretty soon. I'm very excited about it. And hopefully maybe drop some more insight on everybody. But before we get into the episode, we do got to hear from our sponsors of Victory Drive. Starting off with Grizzly Coolers. You guys know Grizzly Coolers, made right down the street in Decorah, Iowa. They are some of the best coolers, actually the best coolers, made in America. Much better than the styrofoam stuff you can get from a gas station, and a lot better than some of the more expensive things. I'm not going to name them, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You guys know. Anyways, Grizzly's awesome, great people. And you can use code WCB at checkout to save some money on coolers, drinkware, and even the hunting blinds. They got hunting blinds, hard side blinds. Get in there, get them up, get it to your property, and put one on your food plot and shoot the biggest buck of your life. Code WCB to save some money. GrizzlyCoolers.com. And next we got Toro Tactical. Toro Tactical. You guys have heard me talk about it the past few weeks. They are a webinar service. They, sell seats at a webinar and they talk about said gear. And then after the webinar is over, they give away the gear that they were talking about in that webinar. So you have a chance to win, not only to win, but also to learn. So you can learn about said item, and then you maybe get a chance to win said item. There's limited amount of seats, so it's like you kind of know your odds before you get in there. If there's 50 seats that are sold, whatever it is, you kind of know what you're getting into before you get in there. It's not just like buying a lottery ticket and going from there. Way better odds than the Mega Million lottery tickets. So get in there, get your webinar seats, and use code WCB to save 10% on your entire order. So the more you buy, the better the deal. How's that? Moo. Great stuff. Anyways, then also, if you guys want to, you can check out my buddy's knife company, Kickapoo Creek Knives. Jesse Happ making great knives. he's a great guy. I've been talking to him quite a bit, and he sent me a few of his knives, and I just wanted to let everybody know he didn't, not a sponsor, but just a good guy. Jesse's a great man. So you guys want a knife, and I'm just saying this because we're getting into the season of getting your gear prepped and all that stuff. So you can get a cooler, get some new gear on Toro Tactical, and then you can also get a very nice skinning knife from Kickapoo Creek Knives. Jesse, great guy. So just a good, solid Christian man making great knives. So check him out. And you can also check out patreon.com, search in Victory Drive, and help out directly to the show if you guys want to, if you ever feel so inclined. Great community of people over there. Very supportive. I love every single one of them. Not in a gay way, but just in a loving way. In a brotherly love way. Not, I want to have sex with them, because that'd be weird. Anyways, moving on. We also got a YouTube channel. Check that out if you guys get bored. And that's pretty much about it. We'll move on to the episode. Hello, everybody, again. It's just me today, this week, and like I said, we're talking about 35 calibers, and I would love to, sit down and talk about this stuff with another person, but at the same time, there's just no one in my area that's as autistic as I am about this kind of stuff, so we're going to hear about this stuff. I don't usually do a whole lot of these caliber, just like caliber versus caliber, or this or that, or those kind of solo style episodes, just because there's a lot of other podcasts that do similar things in the gun world. However, I've been asked quite a bit about 35 caliber options, and there's not a whole lot of information out there. I know there's a couple other podcasts that have done episodes on 35s, and they did a good job, but at the same time, they're pretty dry to listen to, and it's kind of like a lecture, which is fine. You go to a college and you get lectured at and you learn stuff. It's good. It's a good way to learn. I get it. They do it in colleges and stuff. But at the same time, sometimes it's, whatever. I don't know what it is, but you have to be in the right mood for that. So just me this week. And if you guys aren't interested in 35s, and you probably never clicked on this episode, so it doesn't even matter. But we're going to talk about 35 caliber options. Like I was saying in the intro, I totally understand why some people would never even think about a 35 caliber, because, the BC is the ballistic coefficient is worse than other caliber options. The recoil is generally more stout, but they are a powerful option, very powerful option. I've sang the graces of 35 Whelen for quite a while now, and that's probably, I'll just say it right off the rip, probably my personal favorite. Well, there's some other options out there, especially for hand loaders. But we're just going to go through, starting with straight wall, kind of the best overall, and then there's a hidden gem in there with a Magnum cartridge, 35 Magnum. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So, 3 different options for you guys that I have decided to dive into and talk about, and maybe get people thinking about 35s. So, like I said, I totally get why they kind of been thrown to the wayside in recent history. However, I think they're making a comeback. I really do, especially because of states like Iowa going from a shotgun state to a straight wall state to a caliber restricted state instead. And I think it's kind of cool. I think it's cool to get some more love out there, because if Iowa would have just went straight from shotgun to whatever rifle you want, like Wisconsin, I think a lot of people would have just been like, okay, well, I'm just going to get a fucking 30-06 or a 300 Win Mag, which are great options. They're excellent cartridges for a reason. But I think it's cool that Iowa kind of went to a caliber restricted state, and they're just like, hey, you know what? Have some fun and bring to light some older cartridges that have just been tossed to the wayside, like old dirty tampons. Anyways, we'll start off with the 350 Legend straight wall. Probably the best, most versatile straight wall cartridge in 35 caliber. I know the 360 Buckhammer came out not too long ago, and that's a great option. It's actually a little bit more powerful than like a 350 Legend. A little more velocity, a little bit different bullet weight options and stuff. But I chose the 350 Legend due to versatility of gun and lighter recoiling. So the 360 Buckhammer is, I believe, a rimmed cartridge more used for lever actions. Actually, I'm pretty positive it's built specifically for lever actions and single shots. And the 350 Legend was built specifically for autoloaders like AR-15s. So 350 Legend has a lot more after like a rifle support than the 360 Buckhammer, and it's lighter recoiling and very effective. I know some people that use 35 or 350 Legends while hunting when I was just a straight wall state. Even now, that's just a caliber restricted state. A lot of people still use the 350 Legend just because the versatility. You have an AR-15, you can pop the upper off and put a new upper on, and you're shooting 350 Legend out of your AR-15. So it's a great option for that kind of stuff. And it's a really solid option. So I chose the 350 Legend for the best straight wall just because of the versatility. But we'll start with a little bit of history of the 350 Legend and go from there. So it was introduced in 2019, designed by Winchester, and it was purpose built specifically for straight wall hunting regulations, like we talked about earlier. And like I said, lower recoiling than the 450 Bushmaster, which was actually the 450 Bushmaster was really why the 350 Legend took off, because Winchester was kind of looking and they're like, damn, why is 450 Bushmaster flying off the shelves in states like Iowa and Illinois and stuff like that? And then they are like, they kind of realize like, oh shit, these straight walls are really taking off because of hunting regulations. So Winchester saw that, realized it, and decided to create a whole new round, whole new cartridge, the 350 Legend, to compete with the 450 Bushmaster, because the 450 Bushmaster is a beast. It's a stout recoiling model, heavy hitter, and it's a strong bastard. It really thumps deer, puts them right down. But Winchester's like, hey, you know what? We can come out with something that is effective in lighter recoiling, especially for the kiddos. So 350 Legend is a great kiddo cartridge as well. Women and children love it. Men like it. But like recoil, if you're not super recoil shy, then it's still kind of nice to shoot. Like, I'm not super recoil sensitive, but sometimes it's nice to get in there and just use a 350 Legend and not get your ass beat by every single trigger pull. But 350 Legend is very easy to shoot, and it usually comes in anywhere. Like, typically you're looking at like 150 to 180 grain bullets for the 350 Legend. Most popular would be like a PowerPoint or Deer Season XP, Winchester ammo. But I think Barnes is making ammo for it too, like in the TSX and all that kind of stuff. So you can get a bunch of different options. There's a lot of different manufacturers that are loading for a 350 Legend, but probably the most common 150 grain, 180 grain. 180s are probably better, or something in between. 150s are a little bit light, but depending on what kind of bullet and bullet construction you have, 150s will do the job just fine as well. You're looking at anywhere between 2100-ish to 2300-ish feet per second out of 350 Legend, and effective ranges you're looking at right around 200-ish yards, I would say. It's all dependent on skill and bullet that you are using, obviously. You can shoot out there a little bit further than that, but you start getting out there further than like 250 yards, you're really looking at like minimum velocity to have bullets expand properly. So you're really kind of digging in there. If you're shooting out there too far with the 350 Legend, it is meant for closer shots and being very accurate with closer shots, 200 yards and in. So take it for what it is. So like I said, some of the strengths of it is just kind of light recoiling, very accurate. And that's the thing, is like it's a lot more accurate than like a shotgun, which is what all of us boys up here were used to back in the day. So very accurate little rifle, and very light recoiling. And it's just really ideal for youth hunters, and honestly women and men love it too, just because it's very versatile and it is really low recoiling. And around here, a lot of times you get shots not too much further than, like, that's a pretty average distance. Like 200 yards and in is really nice. We're not like a big long range state here, guys. Like Iowa is not like it's not like a Montana where you're going to be on one side of the mountain and the other side. It's really easy to close a distance, on deer, because it is pretty wide open. It's pretty easy to maneuver through. So you're literally looking at some closer shots are pretty average for whitetails around here and around most of the Midwest. Like it's not that we're not shooting from ridgetop to ridgetop a lot. So it's like you really don't need that long range effectiveness. So 350 Legend fits perfectly right in there. And, a lot of hunters, older guys, there's like, you know what, I want to go to the 350 Legend for my kid. And I'm just going to use it too, because one gun for the whole family. Fuck it. Oofta. Sorry about that. That was disgusting. And some of the weaknesses is obviously limited range, and some of the sectional density is much lower than a lot of other 35s, but it's a very good option. And if you want to give it a shot, you have an AR-15 laying around, get a different upper receiver for it, prop a 350 Legend receiver on there, and just have a good time. It's fun. It's a fun little round. So, so that's it for the 350 Legend, the best straight wall in the 35 caliber, in my opinion. I think it just barely edged out the 360 Buckhammer simply because of firearm versatility. Bunch of different firearms. You can get 350 Legend and bolt action single shot and auto loaders like AR-15. So very versatile. You can even get it in handguns. I think CVA Scout makes a handgun, single shot handgun for 350 Legend. Thompson Center does as well, I believe. So lots of different options to play around with the 350 Legend. All right, time to move on to the next one. All right, the next 35 caliber cartridge we have on the table is, you're right, you guys guessed it. I'm not going to make you wait till the very end for this one, but it's the 35 Whelen. 35 Whelen has really seen a big resurgence lately. It's really gotten quite popular, honestly, especially around states like Iowa, where people are really starting to realize that the 35 Whelen has kind of been a lost cartridge. And it was honestly it was a great adaptation. Back in 1920, when it was developed by Colonel Townsend Whalen, back in the 20s, there's kind of some debate on who actually created the 35 Whelen, but we know for a fact James Howe and Townsend Whalen had a hand in creating the 35 Whelen. I'm pretty sure most historians will kind of look at that and be like, James Howe made it and then named it after Colonel Whalen, due to the fact that they were both working the same for the Army at the time and all that stuff. So James Howe, world-renowned gunsmith and just really big name. Griffin and Howe making some really cool shit back in the day. Really jumped on that train and started making some really cool stuff. So the 35 Whelen came into existence. Colonel Townsend Whalen sang its praises, and it got very popular back in the day. It was a very popular round back in the 20s, especially for people in the Northeast. They were using a lot of, out in the big woods and stuff like that. They wanted something with a little bit more punch than just a 30-06. They wanted something that really put them down. So the 35 Whelen was very popular out in the Northeast, like New York and the Adirondacks, that kind of stuff, like the big buck tracking people. They love the 35 Whelen up there. And never really super caught on out west just because people were so stuck around 30 caliber, which is understandable. 30 caliber is very, and there's so many options in 3300 Win Mag, 30-06, all that stuff. So never really super caught on out there. And there's other states that were just restricted and we just couldn't use them forever. Until now. Until now, baby. That's right. Now in Iowa, for sure, we can use 35 Whelen. It's a bottleneck cartridge, so it's not legal in states like Ohio, where they're stuck on just straight wall state only. Hopefully they change it. I think that'd be a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I love it personally. So I think it's a good thing. But we'll see what they do. That's Ohio. It's whatever. They can do whatever they want. But if they went to, just a caliber restricted state like Iowa, I think it'd be a cool thing. And 35 Whelen would just get even more popular out there. So if you're in Ohio, I guess get a 350 Legend. If you're in Iowa, 35 Whelen is very hard to beat. I mean, it's got aftermarket support. It's got rifles being chambered in it more and more. I know Ruger just came out with a new rifle in 35 Whelen, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's the Alaskan version. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it looks sick. Looks very dope. So if you guys want to get into, bolt actions, Ruger is making some really great shit for honestly a fair price. I think it's like just over $1,000. So it's really not too bad. Otherwise, you can find them on auction sites and stuff too. But if you really want a really budget option and just get into the 35 Whelen, CVA Scout. That's what I got. It is a cheap little gun, single shot, but man, it is fucking accurate. Very accurate. So I was out there shooting just a couple weeks ago. I went out to the range and I was shooting at 100 yards, and with a single shot, I was getting MOA. Like, that's fucking awesome. All my shots were touching. Like, it is a really great grouping at 100 yards with a single shot rifle. It was awesome. I was very, very impressed. Very impressed with the 35 Whelen in accuracy. I'm going to get out there and stretch it out a little bit as the summer goes on. And I'm going to take it out hunting. I'm going to hunt the shit out of them. I'm going to hunt everything I possibly can with that 35 Whelen and really see what it can do. But 35 Whelen was also, it originally started as a Wildcat. So if you guys don't know the history of 35 Whelen, it's a 30-06 necked up to 35 caliber. So what they did is they took a 30-06 casing, they stretched out the neck, stuffed a 35 caliber bullet in it. And what they realized is that it actually outperforms the 30-06 in velocity out to I think 200-ish yards or something like that. So it actually outperforms the 30-06, which is pretty rare. Like, usually bigger bullet, heavier bullet, it's going to go slower, right? But not this time. And I think it's something to do with the science of the fact that the 35 caliber in that case length, the standard action case length, is very efficient. It has like I said, a fatter bullet, so that has a fatter base. So all that powder hits a bigger base, and it gets a little bit more oomph behind it. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not a bullet scientist, but it makes sense to me. But it does. The numbers don't lie, and it does outperform the 30-06 until it gets out there a little bit further. So it's very, very cool, very effective round. Bigger frontal diameter, bigger bullet, bigger wound channel, bigger everything. So it's just, in my opinion, just better than the 30-06 until you get out there and you start stretching its legs out there past, 300-400 yards. Then the 30-06 takes over and makes sense why the 30-06 would be better out that distance, because it's smaller and a little bit less wind drift and all those other things. But it's also, like, its intended purpose back then too was to be, it is considered the poor man's Magnum, right? So back in the day, 375 H&H was very popular out in Africa for dangerous game, but is also very expensive. And the 9.3 by 62, I believe, was also very popular, but in America, very expensive, very hard to get. And the 9.3 isn't even technically a Magnum either, but 375s and the 416s and all that shit, very hard to get and very expensive in America. But what Americans did have is a shit ton of World War II era Springfield 1903s in 30-06. So what Whelen and Howe did is they realized, like, oh, hey, we're fighting Nazis and stuff, we have these new smokeless powder cartridges. We have 30-06 abundance. We have lots of rifles in 30-06 because that caliber is really taken off. Let's go ahead and just use that, neck it up to 35 and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. And it did great. But it earned it's a very good on everything in North America. I mean, the 350 Legend is obviously a little bit small, a little bit underpowered for anything bigger than like a deer, right? So it's a very good deer cartridge, but to take a 350 Legend out in the moose marshes or the elk mountains or anything like that, that'd be just kind of silly. But the 35 Whelen, it can kill everything. Like I said, it was designed to be a poor man's Magnum back in the day, to go to Africa with and hunt Cape buffalo and lions and fucking leopards, elephants, all the things. And it does do a good job at being a poor man's Magnum, honestly, for quite a while. But so in North America, you're talking moose, elk, mule deer, bears, grizzly bears, fucking Kodiak bears, you name it. 35 Whelen will put a hurting on them. It's a very powerful cartridge. So that's really, honestly, kind of the history of it and my thoughts on 35 Whelen. But let's go ahead and get into some of the boring stuff. The typical bullet weights, you're looking at 180 grains to 250 grain bullets, generally speaking. I would personally stay away from the 180 grains because it's like, why have a 35 caliber bullet if you're just going to use the same weight as a 30-06? So be a big boy, get up in there, get up in the twos, because everyone knows you're not a man until you hit 200. Everyone knows that. Everyone talks about it. Anything below 200 is victim weight, and we don't want to be a victim with our bullets. So get up in there. I shoot 200s or 225s out of mine, and it really likes them. I just got some Barnes TTSX 200s, and we're going to see how they fly. I've been shooting the Remington Coralocks out of them, and then they honestly shot great. The Norma Oryx 250 grain shot really good out of my gun. Maybe I should just switch to 250s, but it shot really good out of there. So those are the typical bullet weights. And ballistically, you're looking at, like, in the 200s, you're looking at anywhere between about 2,400-ish feet per second on the slow end and maybe 2,700 on the fast end. So in the 2,600-ish, 2,700-ish, you're looking at with a 200 grain. 180s, I think you can get closer to 3,000, but not quite. So 180 grains, you're not really gaining a whole lot, but the heavier bullets, you're just going to get better penetration, especially if you're looking at bigger game like elk, moose, that kind of stuff. If you're looking at dangerous game in North America, like bears and stuff like of that nature, maybe mountain lions, you maybe want a little more ass behind your bullets and maybe get the 250s. But it's a great, like I said, a great cartridge. Ranges you're looking at typically on the far range, you're looking at about 400-ish yards. So it gets out there. I mean, that's your typical maximum effective hunting ranges that a lot of people like to stay within. Even out west, a lot of Westies like to stay within 400 yards if they're, like that's pretty typical. Obviously, you have some people that are really good shots and do a lot of training with their rifles. Maybe they do PRS or NRL Hunter, and they're shooting out there and they're super confident out to 600, 700, 800 yards, and that's fine and dandy, good for them. But most people like to stay within 400 yards, even when they're hunting out west. And the 35 Whelen is perfect for that. Absolutely perfect. 400 yards and in, you're going to be doing just great. You can obviously reach out there a little bit further, just like the 350 Legend, but then, like I said, you're really looking into expansion, like velocity drop so much where reliable expansion would be kind of could be deemed unethical. So you can obviously reach out there. I've heard stories of people shooting plains game in Africa, out well past 400 yards with 35 Whelen. So it definitely can do it. You just got to be careful, look at your bullet construction, look at your bullet type, and get a nice fast expanding bullet, and it'll probably be just fine out there a little bit further than 400-ish yards. So But also the cool thing is the money thing about the 35 Whelen is there's so many 30-06s, so many 30-06s that get passed down from grandpa to grandson. And if you're that grandson that you're like, grandpa's 30-06 is the best and I love it and I'll never hunt without it, well, you can still keep it. Just get it rebarreled to 35 Whelen. And then grandpa's rifle just got a fucking upgrade, buddy. He's looking better. Grandpa's looking thin and strong. Gave him just a little boost of steroids, and now he's big and bad. Now you're getting into adult weights, not victim weights, of 200 plus grain bullets, and you're thumping the shit out of anything that walks in North America and even across the pond. Like I said, Africa, thumping. Great shit. So check it out. Like I said, fits standard length actions, 30-06. Rebarrel it. You're good to go. Excellent penetration, moderate recoil. The recoil is stout, stouter than a 30-06. Like you can feel a difference. You can feel the difference between the bullet weights as well, but it's not bad. It's really not bad. Even in my super light single shot CVA Scout, like obviously if you have a heavier rifle with like a big break on it or a suppressor, which I do have a suppressor on my 35 Whelen, my CVA Scout, it helps a lot. But you get a heavier rifle, you get a bolt action, it's going to be a little bit heavier than a single shot. It's going to really tame down that recoil quite a bit, and it's really not bad. I really don't think it's that bad. I'd probably let my daughter shoot it and not worry about too much. She won't like it as much, I know that, but it's really not too bad. So if you have like a teenage boy, he'll handle it just fine. Really, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, a very moderate recoil and outstanding bullet selection. It's been around for a while, and it's only getting more popular. And honestly, every year, starting to pick up a little bit more steam. People are constantly asking about it, like, "What's up with the 35 Whelen? What's up with 35 Whelen?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's fucking sick. It's badass. Go get you one." And so outstanding bullet selection, lots of aftermarket support. Obviously not as much as like a 7mm Rem mag or 300 Win mag, but in the case of obscure cartridges, this is probably the most popular obscure cartridge, which is great for the average person. You can get factory ammo in it. Like I said, Remington standardized the cartridge, got SAMI approved back in the 80s. So it's got a lot of aftermarket support. So Remington makes ammo for it. Barnes makes ammo for it. Norma makes ammo for it. Nosler makes ammo for it. PPU is cheap shit. Buffalo Bore makes great ammo for a 35 Whelen. You got all sorts of stuff. There's lots of different options out there for factory ammo. But if you're a hand loader, you can really juice this thing up and really pack that fucker full of powder and really get some really impressive velocities out of it if you're a hand loader. Some of the weaknesses, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's really not, I guess. Like it's got more of a rainbow trajectory than like a 30-06. It's not quite as flat. But with today's scopes and stuff, it's like you get a fucking Leupold CDS dial scope. It doesn't matter. Like honestly, like bullet drop just doesn't matter with today's technology and today's fixes. With the technology we have for scopes is ridiculous. So honestly, trajectory doesn't really matter anymore because you just dial your elevation. Nobody really does a whole lot of holdovers on their first shots. And with hunting, you want to be your first shot to be in the most lethal shot, obviously. But everyone dials that I know. Nobody does holdovers like back in the day. Back in the 20s, they wanted more flat shooting because they had a fucking fixed power scope that you couldn't dial for elevation. You just have to do holdovers and do Kentucky windage. That's pretty much not a thing anymore. So our scope technology has gotten better, so it makes bullet drop basically insignificant. So don't worry about rainbow cartridges, as people like to call them. It doesn't matter, because when that bullet connects, it's going to thump, baby. So yeah, honestly, really no glaring weaknesses from the 35 Whelen, besides maybe not as much aftermarket support, like when you're comparing it to like the 30-06. But It is what it is. I was going to say maybe more expensive rifles, but with the CVA Scout, that's pretty damn cheap. Like, you're talking $300-$400 for a beautiful single shot that works great. So really, honestly, there's really nothing. I got nothing for you. It's a great cartridge, great round, and I highly recommend it. All right, moving on to the next 35 that I got. And it's the last one. So this one is very much. So honestly, I kind of realized that we went in order of popularity as well. Because the 350 Legends is the most popular. 35 Whelen is gaining steam. And this one, I would be kind of surprised if you have even heard of it. But it's a 358 Norma Magnum. It's honestly a fucking ripper of a round. This is the one cartridge that I don't have any personal experience with either. I've never shot one, but I've read up on them quite a bit because after using the 35 Whelen, I'm like, man, it'd be really cool. Oh, excuse me, went through puberty right there, but it'd be really cool if someone made like a 35 Nosler or a 35 PRC or a 35 Winchester Magnum, you know what I mean? Like a true 35 Magnum. And it turns out back in 1959, Norma did just that. It is developed in Sweden, and they built it basically by shortening and widening the 300 H&H case. So they kind of designed it to be competitive with the 375 H&H. So back in the 50s, there really wasn't any rules in Africa or anything like that. So, but also they're in Sweden and Scandinavia, so they like to use big fat bullets, and they wanted a Magnum, a 35 caliber Magnum. So they came up with a 358 Norma Magnum, and it's a thumper. Like I said, it's an absolute fucking thumper. But unfortunately later, it got overshadowed by a 338 Winchester Magnum, which is another great cartridge. But Winchester came out and they're like, hey, you know what? If people are elk hunting, they want something a little bit bigger than like a 300 Win Mag, and we'll make a 338 Win Mag. Unfortunately, they didn't go with a 358 Win Mag, because then I'd be able to use it in Iowa, and have a Magnum for whitetails. I mean, like if I use a 358 Norma Magnum, it would be overkill for sure. But in my opinion, like I've said multiple times on this podcast, there is no such thing as overkill, only underkill. So I could use a 358 Norma Magnum and really thump the shit out of some deer. But also mainly just to reach out there a little bit further and just extend my effective range just a little bit more would be kind of nice. But typical bullet weights you're looking at, once again, 35 caliber. So 180 to 280 or 300 plus, even for a 358 Norma Magnum is pretty common. Like I said, you're not a man unless you're over 200. So I wouldn't go 358 Norma Magnum. I wouldn't go anything smaller than 200 just because it's a 35. You might as well. But, ballistically, you're looking at, this is where it gets funky. You're looking at like 2,900-ish to 2,500-ish or 2,500 to 2,900-ish feet per second. So you're looking really close to that 3,000 feet per second mark. And for a 35 caliber, that is fucking moving, baby. Moving. But you're also looking at very close, very, very close to 375 H&H energy numbers, like 4,000 plus foot-pounds of energy. So you are looking very similar to a 375 H&H. Like it's very competitive with smaller bullets, which is outstanding. That's why I think the 35 caliber is just an overlooked cartridge, because it is very effective. Like you don't lose a whole lot going to a 35 from a 30 cal, and you don't gain that much by going to a 375. So I really think the 35 caliber is a very overlooked cartridge, or very overlooked bullet diameter for hunting anything in North America. I truly think that 35 caliber should probably be America's cartridge, and just gives you a little more oomph. It's not quite like dangerous game level oomph, but you can definitely you could kill a Cape Buffalo for sure at 35 Whelen. I mean, Ernest Hemingway went to Africa and killed everything, Cape Buffalo and everything with a 30-06. So you definitely can with 35 caliber bullets too, like a 35 Whelen or a 358 Norma Magnum would do the trick. But honestly, then again, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, do I want a 35, a bigger, heavier bullet out west when a 300 Win Mag shoots further? It's more effective out at further distances, and it's flatter shooting and all the things, all those pros for the 300 Win Mag. You would lose a little bit with the 35, but not like a shit ton, especially if you're looking at the 358 Norma Magnum. You're not losing a shit ton. Losing a little bit, but not a lot. So, but at what point, honestly, this is where I get at with the 358 Norma Magnum, and I think the reason why it went to the wayside is that it can't be the true do-it-all Magnum. So if you're looking at standard length actions, 35 Whelen, got it. If you're looking at short actions, like a 358 Winchester is fucking beautiful. And that's one of my honorable mentions, actually, 358 Winchester. Great little cartridge as well. But, so if you're looking at standard action, which is standard, right? But if you want a long action Magnum, I mean, what do you gain going to the 358 Norma Magnum? Like, it's very effective, but it can't be your true do-it-all cartridge, your true one rifle to rule them all. It can't be, because most African countries do not allow you to, it's illegal to use calibers smaller than 375 on dangerous game. So it really can't be your true do-it-all. So if you wanted a true do-it-all best of, I buy one rifle to hunt the entire world, it would have to be the 375 H&H. It could be the 358 Norma Magnum if some African countries didn't make it illegal. So true do-it-all round, because like, at what point do you go from the 35 caliber to the 375? And that's where the 358 Norma Magnum lived, was in that weird zone of, like, most people were just like, okay, if I'm going to get a Magnum, I'm just going to get a 375 H&H and call it a night and hunt everything in the entire world. But underneath that 358 Norma Magnum is the 35 Whelen and 358 Winchester, which they did gain they had some popularity bumps, and they did do great things for quite a while. Then they kind of got left to the wayside until now. States like Iowa are bringing it back, baby, bringing it back. But I really do think that, if people out west gave the 358 Norma Magnum a little bit of love, it would really come into its own. But they're probably not going to. They're too stuck on their PRC lines and, 300 Win Mag line, which is fine. I totally understand it. But also the 358 Norma Magnum has virtually zero aftermarket support at this point in our lives. So very impressive cartridge, but just has no support. So you're going to get a custom rifle, and then you're going to start hand loading if you want to shoot a 358 Norma Magnum. And if you're into hand loading already, then hell yeah, dude, go for it. Or if you're a gunsmith, go for it. Or you have a really good relationship with a gunsmith, go for it, baby. Get a 358 Norma Magnum built and just thump everything you possibly can, because it will. It'd be awesome. So that's pretty much about it, honestly. I love 35s. I really, truly do. And it'd be no surprise to any of you listening that my personal pick would be the 35 Whelen. Obviously, you have restrictions with that, but it's the perfect middle ground. I think you go out west, you're killing elk and moose. You go to Alaska, you're killing everything in North America with a 35 Whelen. If you're in a caliber or a straight wall only state, then yeah, 350 Legend would be your boy, or the 360 Buckhammer. But as far as versatility goes, the 35 Whelen is money, baby, money. So if you guys want to go ahead and get yourself a Whelen, have some fun with it, and thump some bucks. But before we get out of here, I do want to go over just a few honorable mentions from my head that I thought of as we were talking. I also love the 35 Remington that's a very, very cool little cartridge. I absolutely love it. It was originally made for lever actions, but it gained a lot of popularity with single shot handguns. Like I have a Thompson Center Contender in 35 Remington, and inside of 100 yards, that 35 Remington fucking wallops deer. So I killed 2 deer with my Thompson Center Contender in 35 Remington a couple of years back, and it just absolutely thumped them. I just killed them deader than dead. Killed them deader than a 350 Legend for sure. Like the 350 Legend, I have seen and heard from some people that it lacks some ass behind it. Lacks a little ass, but that's okay. Because it is a straight wall, and that's kind of to be expected. And 35 Remington is a bottleneck cartridge, so it would not be legal in states like Ohio. So that's kind of why it got thrown to the wayside on this list. But I do love it. If you live in a state like Iowa, then use it. It's a great woods cartridge too. So if you have a lever action, get a 35 Remington. They have some really cool pump action 35 Remingtons too that you can find on auction sites. So if you are in the deep woods and you're really into lever actions, the 35 Remington was built basically like the 30-06 for the as a 30-30, you know. So they took a 30-30 and stuffed a 35 caliber bullet on it and called it a 35 Remington, and it absolutely thumps. Like it thumps harder than a 30-30. But 30-30s are super popular. Great deer killing cartridge, but the 35 Remington, it really thumps them, dude. It really thumps them thumps them dead as well. So if you are into that kind of stuff and it's legal for you, check out 35 Remington. It's great. Great cartridge. Also, the one that gets lost in the sauce would be like the 350 Remington. That was the original kind of Magnum for 35s. Well, I shouldn't say original. I don't know which came first, the 358 Norma Magnum or the 350 Remington Magnum, but fucking awesome round. But it's dead. It's a dead round. If you, like I said, if you want to get a custom rifle made in 350 Remington Magnum and start hand loading, then go for it. But it's fucking dead. It's deader than shit. So there's that. And we already talked about the 360 Buckhammer as well. So no need to do that. But that's pretty much the tail of the 35s. A lot of them are dead. A lot of dead cartridges. But the 350 Legend and the 35 Whelen keeping the 35s alive. And I just really appreciate that from them, from Winchester for doing that, and Townsend Wayland and Howe for making the 35 Whelen, because it's a fucking splendid cartridge. And I'm really excited to kill some shit with it. So, yeah, I'm actually probably more excited to kill some shit with my 35 Whelen than I am with anything else this year. I'm very excited about it. Very excited. So, there's that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you do like this kind of stuff, just let me know. Because I don't really know. I don't know what you guys like unless you tell me. So if you're still here listening, then you are the OGs. You're the best. You guys are the ones that stick around to the very end, and I appreciate you. And if you like I said, if you like this kind of stuff, just let me know. Hit me up on Instagram, X, wherever on social media, and let me know, like, hey, yeah, that was actually really good. Or be like, hey, dude, actually kind of fucking gay, and you suck at that. You suck at just talking into nothing and just talking to yourself for 45 plus minutes. So just let me know. But yeah, I don't know. Have fun out there, guys. Get some trigger time in, whether you're shooting your handgun or rifle or whatever it is. Get some trigger time in. Burn some powder for the founding fathers, and try to make America just a little bit less gay. And that'd be a good thing. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Love you guys, and take care.